Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the middle of the order. We're here for another DOP divisions, outlooks, and predictions. Before we dive in today, I just want to say it's incredible that we're here with our 200th episode of the podcast. Nearly 2 years of work. It's been a lot of fun. And hopefully can keep it going and hopefully can continue to talk baseball in this format for anyone who will come by and listen. I appreciate you all if you're here listening to another DOP. Just wanted to throw that out there before the beginning of this episode. The fact that we've gotten to 200 is pretty crazy. I know this year's going to be a little different because I've got things planned for the summer and I'm not exactly sure, but just want to say thank you for the milestone. It's a privilege to be able to do this, and it's been a lot of fun these past 2 years, and I'm excited for a third year of the middle of the order here, so thank you once again. With that all ooshi-gooshi set aside, let's get into what is today's episode, another division outlook and prediction as mentioned. This time we're going to the AL East, and boy, there's a lot of teams to talk about here, a lot of top-tier talent. The AL Beast division from a few years ago maybe isn't as beast-like now, but it is still a very powerful division with plenty of top teams. So, with that all being said, let's dive on in and get going with the first team, and that is the New York Yankees, a team that went all the way to the World Series. Finally, it seemed like forever. The New York Yankees were 94 and 68th. They were 11th in starter ERA, 6th in relief ERA, and 3rd in runs. They beat the Royals in the ALDS 3-1. They took that series to then head and beat the next AL Central team. This time it was the Cleveland Guardians. They beat them 4-1 in the ALCS, a postseason trip that didn't have them face the Astros. How lucky that was for them. They head to the World Series for the first time in a long time, I believe 2009. And they faced the Dodgers in a clash of the top two teams of the AL and the NL. Some said it was a great World Series, not my preferred take, but regardless, the Dodgers dismantled the Yankees in 5 games to take home the World Series, 4-1 in that series there. And it was, Yankee fans will say it was a bad year and a tough year, but the fact that you guys got that far, the fact that you were able to do all that, I think it was one of the best Yankee seasons we had seen in a long time, maybe in my life. I mean, this was a really strong Yankees team. So, that's hats off to you guys. Obviously, there's a lot of Yankee fans who want to win the whole thing, and anything outside of a World Series ring is considered a failure. We're not in the same, early 2000s and 1900s and those Yankees that won those 27 rings. We're not in that same time frame anymore, and I think you guys need to start having a different outlook on what is considered a good season. Regardless, though, we're talking about you guys, and we're going to talk about who you guys ended up losing. We're not going to beat around the bush. They traded for Juan Soto. He delivered a career year there and had a fantastic season, and now he is gone. Still in the same area. He's staying in New York just as a Met now. So the Yankees lose him. They also lost Alex Verdugo, Gleyber Torres. He seemed like he had been there a long time. Clay Holmes, Tommy Kahnle, Tim Meza, John Berti, Anthony Rizzo, Lou Trevino, Nestor Cortez Jr., Jose Trevino, as well as Cody Potet and Taylor Trammell. So a handful names of guys there. They do bring back Tim Hill and Jonathan Loaisiga, who were free agents. They're back with the Yankees. But they made a very, very nice offseason. They brought in Max Fried. They brought in an MVP winner in Paul Goldschmidt. They brought in another MVP winner in Cody Bellinger. They bring in Devin Williams, Fernando Cruz, and Alex Jackson. So in all, despite losing all of those guys, and Soto obviously, I think the Yankees had one of the best off seasons and one of the best free agencies this season, this time around. this was a great season for them. The rotation, as of right now, stacks up Max Fried as the ace of that staff, Carlos Rodon in the 2-hole, Marcus Stroman, a guy they were trying to trade all season long. He's listed now as the 3, Clark Schmidt the 4, and then Will Warren, one of their top prospects right now, getting the shot potentially in the 5th hole. All of these are coming from Fangraphs, of course. The Yankees lineup has Austin Wells leading off, catcher. Aaron Judge bats second in right field. Cody Bellinger batting third in center field. Paul Goldschmidt behind him batting first. Jazz Chisholm playing second base batting fifth. Anthony Volpe bats sixth as the shortstop. Jason Dominguez, another one of their top prospects in left field, batting eighth. Ben Rice, kind of an unsung hero late in the season last year. He's the DH batting eighth. And Oswaldo Cabrera plays third base and bats ninth for these Yankees. The bench has Alex Jackson as a non-roster invitee right now. Oswald Peraza, Trent Grisham, and Everson Pereira listed up as the bench here. The bullpen, we got Devin Williams and Luke Weaver in the back end there. I believe Williams should be the closer. Even though Weaver had it at the end of the season last year, when you bring in Devin Williams, he will most likely be the closer. They also have Ian Hamilton. They brought in Fernando Cruz, brought back Tim Hill. They have Mark Leiter Jr. So a handful of guys in the bullpen who can make that impact. Speaking of the bullpen, I mean, there's a couple of injuries to it, but there's a couple of injuries across the board for the Yankees, all of which coming out in recent times. So, I mean, I might be a little early with this episode, but right now, DJ LeMahieu's on the IL. Luis Hill, the Rookie of the Year, of course. Him and, who was it there? Austin Wells, 2 of the top 3, as well as Colton Cowser from Baltimore, who we'll be talking about shortly. Jay Cousins is on the IL. Jonathan Loaisiga, JT Brubaker. So some of those relief pitchers, as I was mentioning. And then 2 of the big ones here. Giancarlo Stanton is potentially going to be on the IL, or he is on the IL, with quote-unquote severe elbow injuries in both of his elbows. So we're not sure, not only for this season, but also his career also in jeopardy, and that's what's being talked about currently. And this was news that came out in recent hours for me. Garrett Cole apparently will be needing Tommy John surgery, or at least it's recommended. The Yankees are seeking out a second opinion, obviously, because shutting down Garrett Cole already, this is already a huge blow for these Yankees here. But Garrett Cole could maybe miss 2025 if that Tommy John surgery is needed. Regardless, it's going to be a lengthy IL stint for Garrett Cole, whether it is the full season, 3 to 4 months. But his injury isn't looking too good. So some struggling and some troubles for the Yankees on the IL front early on here in the season. When you take a look at the 2026 free agents, you've got Luke Weaver, Paul Goldschmidt, Devin Williams, Trent Grisham, JT Brubaker, all becoming free agents for the club. They have a club option for Jonathan Loaisiga for $5 million and Tim Hill for $3 million. They have a vesting option for Stroman for $18 million, which is a little bit of cause of concern there for them. And then a player option for Cody Bellinger worth $25 million. So the Yankees have a lot of free agents and a lot of concerns for the 2026 season. But of course, they got to get through 2025 first. And without Cole and Stanton, the road did get a little bit harder. And we're not even at the beginning of the season. So things to watch out for there if you are a Yankees fan. But that's how the Yankees look entering 2025 here. Continuing on, let's keep it rolling. We're talking about the Baltimore Orioles. And they had a nice season last year as well. They finished 91-71. They were 5th in starter ERA, 23rd in relief ERA. 4th in runs. They finished 3 games back of the division. They did make the wild card, though. They made it as the 4 seed. But they lost to the 5 seed Royals 2-0. to them in the AL wildcard, and that was a rough 2 games, let me tell you. Who did they lose? They lost Corbin Burnes, a 1-year rental guy who has made his way to the desert. He's no longer there. Anthony Santander, the switch-hitting masher, has gone to a division rival. John Means, gone. Austin Slater, see you later. James McCann, Jacob Webb, Eloy Jimenez, and Danny Colombi all sang adios with Baltimore there. So a little bit of cause concern there, especially with who are they adding. There's some names here, but I don't know if it's going to be able to replace Burnes and Santander. They bring in Daz Cameron, Tyler O'Neill, Gary Sanchez, Tomoyuki Sugano, Charlie Morton, Andrew Kittredge, Dylan Carlson, and Ramon Laureano. So some prospects with questionable marks, some outfielders with power in an arm, a backup catcher, a 30-plus-year-old vet in Morton. So an interesting offseason there for Baltimore. They still have a lot of great young talent here, but will it be enough to get them back into the postseason? The rotation right now has Zach Eflin as the ace of that staff, Charlie Morton as the 2, Dean Creamer the 3, Tomoyuki Sugano, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right, he's listed as the 4. Then you have Cade Povich as the 5 right now. That's what the rotation is looking like. The lineup, Gunnar Henderson. He's going to make a case for an MVP season, I think, once again. The shortstop bats first. Adley Rutschman, the catcher, bats second. Cedric Mullins in center field bats third. Jordan Westberg, the third baseman, batting fourth. Colton Cowser in right field bats fifth. Tyler O'Neill in left field bats sixth. Then you have Ryan O'Hearn as the DH batting seventh. Ryan Mountcastle manning first base batting eighth. And then Jackson Holliday, the top prospect, second baseman, bats ninth, with a bench of Gary Sanchez, Ramon Urias, Heston Kjerstad, who I think will get more playing time than we think, and Ramon Laureano. So those are the 4 guys listed on the bench currently. The bullpen has some names, guys that I know and guys that I like. Felix Bautista should be making a return and be back with the club. Of course, he missed 2024. Sir Anthony Dominguez, Keegan Aiken, Yernier Cano, Gregory Soto, Sionel Perez, Albert Suarez. I mean, it's a nasty bullpen, guys, who will come out and give you their all. On the IL, they got Jorge Mateo, Kyle Bradish, Grayson Rodriguez, Trevor Rogers, and Tyler Wells. So basically, to sum it up, infielder, starter. Tough. They also have Andrew Kittredge on the IL as well from the bullpen. Taking a look in 2026, the free agents they have listed here: Zach Eflin, Charlie Morton, Sugano, Gary Sanchez, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Ryan O'Hearn, Cedric Mullins is a big one there, Gregory Soto, and then they have club options for Andrew Kittredge for $9 million, Ramon Laureano for $6.5 million, and Jorge Mateo for $5.5 million. So this Baltimore team, I don't know if they got better. I don't know if they got worse. They've had some issues, but they have young talent. So there's a lot of question marks, in my opinion, circling around Baltimore. But as mentioned, the talent there, the top-end talent there, is certainly enough to back him up. Continuing on now, let's dive into the Boston Red Sox, and they had a sneaky good offseason as well. They finished middle of the pack at 81-81 last year. They were 7th in starter ERA, 24th in relief ERA. They were 9th in runs. They finished 13 games back of the division and 5 games back of the wild card. They lost quite a few names here. Of course, they did try to make a push at the end of the season, brought in some one-year rental guys from the deadline. Guys, they lost Danny Jansen, Tyler O'Neill, Lucas Sims, Nick Pavetta's gone, James Paxton, Luis Garcia, Chris Martin, Kenley Jansen, and then a couple of top prospects, Kyle Teal and Braden Montgomery, among others. And who do they bring in to replace those guys? Justin Wilson, Aroldis Chapman, Patrick Sandoval, Walker Buehler, Alex Bregman is the big name here. They also have Adam Ottavino and Matt Moore on non-roster invitee deals. They brought in Blake Sable, Garrett Crochet as the other big move, and then Carlos Navarez as well. So a handful of guys to replace a handful of replacements. They had a nice offseason. The rotation entering 2025, Garrett Crochet, the ace of that staff, Tanner Hyuk, Walker Buehler, Lucas Giolito, who missed all of 2024, and then Quinn Priester, who I believe was a Pirate at one point. I'm not sure in the prospects or if he actually got some time there, but I remember a Pirates version of card of him, and that will be the show. The lineup for Boston, Jarren Duran, the left fielder, leads it off with Rafael Devers playing third to follow him up. Alex Bregman listed at second base currently. That's going to be a sight to see. Tristan Casas at first base. Trevor Story bats fifth as the shortstop. Masataka Yoshida, the DH, bats sixth. Rob Refsnyder in right field bats seventh. Connor Wong, the catcher, batting eighth. And then Cedane Rafaela, the right center fielder, bats ninth for the lineup there. The bench, Carlos Navarez, Rami Gonzalez, David Hamilton, and Nick Sogard make up that Red Sox bench. The bullpen's got some names. Liam Hendricks, who of course hasn't pitched in a long time. He's got to share the back end with Aroldis Chapman. They also have Garrett Whitlock and Justin Wilson back there, among others. So some notable names there. On the IL for them, they have Wilyer Abreu, Brian Bello, Cutter Crawford, and Patrick Sandoval. So like Baltimore, a couple top-tier starters in their mind on the IL, Bello and Crawford. Definitely, and Sandoval as well. So how will they be able to work around the beginning of the season and get those guys healthy? Free agents for 2026, Aroldis Chapman, Justin Wilson, Rob Refsnyder are all free agents. They also have club options for Jarren Duran for $8 million, but of course he will still be with the team regardless of that. They have a mutual option for Walker Buehler for $25 million, so he's got to earn that. And then they also have a mutual option with Lucas Giolito for $19 million, and then Liam Hendricks for $12 million. So we'll have to see how those deals come out to be. But yeah, with Garrett Crochet and Bregman being added to this lineup and to those rotation, definitely liking what the Red Sox can provide come 2025 here. So their season could be in good shapes here. Moving on now, let's talk about the Tampa Bay Rays. They finished 80-82. That's one game worse than the Red Sox. They were 10th in starter ERA, 10th in relief ERA, but 29th in runs, the second worst team scoring runs, 14 games back of the division and 6 games back of the wild card, I believe. Yeah, I mentioned that with the Red Sox. Who did they lose? They're the Rays, small market team. They lost Tyler Alexander, Colin Pouchet, Dylan Carlson, Richard Lovelady, Jose Siri, Jeffrey Springs, and Oslevis Basabi. They also lost their stadium in a hurricane, so that's tough there. They brought in Ha-Sung Kim from the Padres. He's not going to be healthy come the start of the season, though. They also bring Danny Jansen in from the Red Sox. Eloy Jimenez, a non-roster invitee deal from Baltimore. Joe Boyle and Alex Fado, among a couple other guys there, is who is joining Tampa Bay and their situation not being able to play at Tropicana come 2025. It's going to be a weird season with two teams that are homeless. The rotation is going to see some depth and some help back, including Shane McClanahan as the ace returns to his rightful spot in the rotation. Taz Bradley is the 2, Ryan Pepio as the 3, Zach Lytle as the 4, I believe I pronounced that right, Shane Baz as the 5, and the funny thing with the Rays is that Fangraphs actually has a 6-man rotation, drawing in Drew Rasmussen there. So 6 guys in that Rays rotation, and then they have 7 guys in the bullpen. So interestingly enough there, I think that's the only team so far that I've seen that has had that. The lineup for the Rays come 2025. Yandy Diaz plays first base. He bats first. Brandon Lau plays second base. He bats second. Junior Camarino, he plays third base, and he bats third. I love this. Let's keep this going. Josh Lowe, right fielder, bats fourth. I always get the Lows confused and mixed up. Brandon Lau, Josh Lowe. He bats fourth as right fielder. Danny Jansen, the catcher, bats fifth. Jonathan Aranda, the DH, batting sixth. Christopher Morel in left field, bats seventh. Seventh. Johnny DeLuca, the center fielder, bats eighth. And then Taylor Walls out there in shortstop, bats ninth. The bench has Ben Rotvelt, Curtis Mead, Jose Caballero, and Richie Palacios. So some guys who saw some starting time last year now see some bench time, according to Fangraphs. Of course, we know how Kevin Cash likes to run his offense. Guys will be coming in and out depending on the starter matchup. The bullpen, they've got some notable names, but, names that we'll learn throughout the season as comes usual. Pete Fairbanks still in the back end of that bullpen. Garrett Clevenger, Alex Fado, and Edwin Ucita. I believe that's how the name is pronounced, but I could also be wrong about that one as well. Their IL only has Ha-Seong Kim, so we'll see when he is going to be ready to go. For their free agents come 2026, it's just Zach Lytle. They do have club options though. Brandon Lau, $11.5 million. Yandy Diaz, $12 million. Pete Fairbanks, $7 million. Taylor Walls, $2.4 million. And then Waguespack, who I believe is in AAA to start, according to Fangraphs, $1.5 million. They also have a player option for Ha-Seong Kim for $16 million, and then a mutual option for Danny Jansen for $12 million. And that is how your Rays look for 2025 to begin this season. And that means we have just one last team to go over, and that is your Toronto Blue Jays. And let me tell you, last season, it got away from them in a quick fashion come June, July. I mean, it was looking bleak. They finished 74-88. They were 14th in starter ERA, 29th in relief ERA, and 23rd in runs. They were 20 games back of the division and 12 games back of the wild card. They lose Jordan Romano, their back-end closer, the Canadian. He's gone. Dylan Tate, Jenis Cabrera, and Spencer Horwitz all say goodbye. They bring in some nice, notable names, including bringing back Jimmy Garcia for the bullpen, Josh Walker, Jeff Hoffman, kind of replacing Romano in that trade with the Phillies, kind of. That's not a trade because they both signed free agent-wise, but Romano signed with the Phillies and Hoffman signed with the Jays. You get it. They bring in Anthony Santander. That was kind of the big bat they got and the big move that they made after being in on guys like Soto and Roki Sasaki, among other free agents. They bring in future Hall of Famer Max Scherzer. What does he have left in the tank? Miles Straw, Andres Jimenez, and Nick Sandlin, all in trades with the Guardians, all coming over to join the Blue Jays. This is a big year for the Jays because a lot is at stake. Taking a look at the rotation, we got Kevin Gausman as the ace. Jose Barrios listed as the 2. We might see that switch come opening day. Chris Bassett, he's the 3. Max Scherzer as the 4. And then Bowden Francis, who looked very good in September last year. He brought 2 no-hitters into the 9th inning before giving them both away on solo home runs. So what does he have to start 2025? The lineup has Bo Bichette leading off as the shortstop. What does he have after a down year last year? Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the first baseman, bats second. Anthony Santander in left field bats third. George Springer in right field bats fourth. Dalton Varsho playing the DH role, batting fifth. Alejandro Kirk, the catcher, bats sixth. Andreas Jimenez at second base, bats seventh. Ernie Clement, the third baseman, batting eighth. And then Joey Loperfido, the center fielder, batting ninth. Their bench sees Tyler Heineman, Will Wagner, Davis Schneider, and right now Miles Straw on a non-roster invitee deal. So we'll have to see how the rest of spring training goes from that. The bullpen, you got the likes of Jeff Hoffman, Chad Green, Jimmy Garcia, Nick Sandlin, Zach Pop, Yariel Rodriguez, among other guys. We might see Rodriguez in the starter role this year as well. Taking a look at that IL, we've got Alek Manoah, who's going to miss some time in 2025, Eric Swanson, and Ryan Burr. So how healthy can those guys, get back? And I mean, pretty much every team besides Tampa really has some major injuries for some big players there. The cause for concern for the Jays comes from that free agent class in 2026 that shows the likes of Chris Bassett, Max Scherzer, Eric Swanson, Chad Green, and of course is headlined by Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. Those are two guys who will be on the market come the end of the season, and those are two guys that the Jays will definitely want to keep around. So it all depends on how this season goes for the Blue Jays. A lot will be at stake, but that is what their outlook is saying for 2025. So let's dive on in and start talking about these teams. I don't even know where I want to go with first. Let's talk about Baltimore really quickly here, because I want to talk about kind of their postseason and kind of the moves that they made in the free agency, because they lost Corbin Burnes and Anthony Santander, a huge bat in their lineup, and the ace of their staff that was on that one-year rental that was supposed to be that saving grace for the rotation, because Baltimore has never really had, in recent years, that shutdown certified ace star. And in return, the bat from Santander becomes Tyler O'Neill, who is a good bat and a good outfielder, but I think you would still rather have Santander. And then when you look at Corbin Burnes, you bring in, Uncle Charlie. His nickname is Uncle Charlie. Charlie Morton he's up there in age, and then you're taking a shot on Tomoyuki Sugano from West. So, or the East, I guess, however you want to look at the map. But from I believe he's from Japan. It might be Korea. I'm not sure which one he comes from, to be honest. But when you think of all those moves made, I mean, you're not loving it. You go back to that wild card round against the Royals. That first game, Corbin Burnes gave it all he had. 8 innings, 5 hits, only 1 earned run. Guess what Baltimore did? 5 hits, nothing. No runs scored. Corbin Burnes gave it his all. Nearly a complete game, but that 1 run was the difference in this game because Baltimore couldn't score a run. You go into the second game, they got 1 extra hit. They had 6 hits, and that extra hit, I guess, a home run for Cedric Mullins. By the way, they lost 2-1. They got outscored in this series 3-1. They could only muster up 1 run on 11 hits, and they couldn't get through Kansas City, and their magic run continues. Look, the Royals had a lot of faith. They had Bobby Witt and Cole Reagans, and they have good players, and they're a good team as well. But Baltimore and this offense that we talked about is so elite and so good. They were 4th in runs, disappeared in the postseason, and maybe it's the lack of veteran presence. Maybe it was the lack of, there was a lot of factors that could have taken in. But when you see that, as an owner and as a general manager, it's like, okay, this is where we need to improve is offense. You need guys to, go out there and get ready and make sure they're ready for those big moments. And the lineup is almost similar, if not the exact same, with the addition of Tyler O'Neill for Anthony Santander. And I mean, you got another year of Gunnar maturing and Adley maturing and Westberg and Kauser and all these other guys. And what do you have from Jackson Holiday? Is it Heston Kjerstad, etc.? I don't know. I think Baltimore will still be a decent team. It's the pitching that does concern me because Zach Eflin is not an ace. He's lucky to be a 3 guy on most teams in the league. Obviously on the Dodgers, he's not even in the starting rotation. So, I mean, to have him be the ace right now, you definitely need some of your guys to stand out. Hopefully Dean Creamer can stand out and be that guy. And hopefully your guys can, like Grayson Rodriguez and Bradish and Wells, can get healthy, because those are the players that you're going to need to rely on for the rotation if you guys want a chance to really go far in a postseason and even to get there. Because like we said, we've done the AL West already. We haven't done the Central, but there's going to be a real competition for the wild card, I think, this year. And if your rotation's not locked in, ready to go, I mean, that's going to be where you guys struggle. They were 5th in starter ERA last year, and that was on the help of Corbin Burnes. I think losing Corbin Burnes, we're going to see Baltimore be very different this year. I say very different. They still will most likely be a playoff team, but at 91 wins last year, I mean, I don't think they're going to be cracking 90 unless they really, that hitting really stands out and if some guys in that rotation step up and take over for the absence of Burnes. So we'll have to see what Baltimore can bring in. But yeah, let's talk about some other teams here. Let's stay with the Birds, talk about the Blue Jays quickly. Last season, really bad, really underwhelming. 23rd in runs. That offense that they, that looked good on paper, a lot of career down years for guys. George Springer was bad. Bo Bichette had the worst season of his career. When he was healthy, he wasn't great, and he was mostly injured. You go through the lineup of Dalton Varsho, David Schneider took a step back. Kirk was taking steps back. So really, the only player that was kind of contributing was Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and then at one point, Spencer Horwitz got called up, and he was playing very well. Of course, he got traded. He is now a member of the Pirates after the Guardians shipped him over there. So you need that offense to step up. You need Springer to kind of find some form again. You bring in Anthony Santander. He's going to help out big time. Bo Bichette should have a rebound year, of course, because it's a contract year, so you know how important he'll be for Bichette and for Vladdy. And this season is the ultimate coin flip for the Blue Jays because they still have a lot of talent, I think. Kevin Gausman, Berrios, Bassett, Scherzer, the rotation is still solid. The lineup is still good. They have the absolute possibility of battling for a division if they really stand out and show up. They also have the option of struggling hard and being the worst team in the league, and then come the All-Star break, trading away Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Chris Bassett and Max Scherzer and anyone who can get them anything and just scraping it down and restarting. So there is a very high ceiling, but also a very low floor, and we're just going to throw the Jays out there and see if they can fly. It's basically Mama Bird pushing them out of the nest, and they'll either fly and have a successful season, or they will fall to their death, and it will be one of the worst seasons in Jays history, especially in recent years here. So a complete coin flip for the Blue Jays for 2025 here, and it all depends on how powerful that offense can be, and if that rotation and that bullpen kind of worries me as well. They were 29th in relief ERA last year. Hopefully Jeff Hoffman can be a savior there and help them out kind of get into form. But if their bullpen is as bad as last year, I'm worried about the Blue Jays. The Rays are interesting. Devil Magic, they're either going to be good or the AL East is always super high, super low. The Blue Jays, they were 7 games from 81 and 81, and they were 5th in the division. It's a difference between the Jays and Yankees when you look at that 20-game difference. But the fact that, 74 and 88 gets you 5th, I mean, there was 2021? The Blue Jays were 4th in the division, and they won 91 games. That was a crazy year, 2021. It could be anything for the Rays. Their season is always with guys who you don't really know, are they going to make such a huge impact or such not a huge impact. They're going to be playing at a Yankees AAA complex. So, the lack of no stadium, it's either going to benefit them. People are going to get homesick. They're going to hate the traveling stuff and the way that they're going to have to play this year. So a very weird season for Tampa inbound here. And it kind of goes with their team. It's always a very weird team. I look through the lineup here. There are some names I like, some prospects I like, some young talent. For me, it's always the rotation that stands out. That 6-man rotation according to Fangraphs. I like all the guys. Drew Rasmussen, Shane McClanahan. You go from 1 to 6. Any one of those guys, I would have a fun day at the ballpark to watch them start. So it'll be very interesting to see where the Rays stack up. And then you have the 2 teams, I think, at the top of this league, potentially Yankees and Red Sox. Yankees could be in a bit of a trouble. I like the idea that their offseason was so good. I like the idea that when you think of Soto, you lose Soto to bring in Paul Goldschmidt, Max Fried, Cody Bellinger, and Devin Williams. So on that front alone, really excited. Jazz Chisholm now playing at second base. Love that for him. I think he's going to have a nice season. The real question mark for New York will come in the fact that if they end up losing Garrett Cole and Stanton for the years, that's 2 huge blows, especially Cole, who is the ace and the guy. So, you'll be thankful to have Max Fried if Cole does need Tommy John, and if he does miss the season here. Signing Max Fried, you're basically in the same position as you were last year with a top-end ace, and then, what do you have there from Rodon and Stroman and Schmidt, etc. But Soto, you bring in Cody Bellinger, short porch, helped Soto out have a career year. Cody Bellinger, once an MVP, he could have that still in him. Paul Goldschmidt, he's up there in age. I don't think he's got MVP written on him, but hey, he can still be a threat in the lineup. So still on paper, do like New York. Like them a lot less if Garrett Cole gets, if he's hurt. I think that goes without saying, obviously. If your ace and your second best player on the team is not healthy and is going to miss a season, your team gets worse. I think that goes for any one of the 30 teams here. So something to keep in mind there. And then Boston could be really fun this year, man. I've got high hopes in Boston. Rafael Devers, Alex Bregman, Jarren Duran, Yoshida, Trevor Story. Like, some of these guys are going to have to get right. You bring in Walker Buehler, Lucas Giolito. You got two guys that you're taking chances on who have had big league success before and also have had big league struggles. Garrett Crochet is a legitimate certified ace. And if you forget, 1 year Boston traded 4 prospects to get a left-hander from the White Sox. That left-hander, Chris Sale. That year they did that, 2018, I believe. And in that year, guess what happened? They won the World Series. This year, they traded for a top-end lefty starter in Garrett Crochet. They traded away 4 prospects. Is this the year the Red Sox win the World Series? I don't know, but they have the talent to make it far. At 81-81 last year, I think they're definitely going to be better this year. Higher hopes for Red Sox. I mean, at this point, I kind of like Boston over Baltimore. I think the young talent that Baltimore has is more intriguing. The Gunnar Hendersons and the Adley Rutschmans of their team and of the world there. But I think having the major league guys like Bregman and Trevor Story and Devers, I mean, lineup-wise, give me Boston, even though I prefer Gunnar. Like, out of all these players between Baltimore and the Red Sox, out of the lineups, I think Gunnar is my favorite player. I think he was on my fantasy team last year. Like, he's a great player. He's going to be in the MVP conversation again this year. But you can take a look at those rotations. Yeah, Garrett Crochet is amazing, and Tanner Houck and Buehler. And, what do you have out of some of those guys? But like I said, for Baltimore, it's the rotation that worries me, because when you're going from Corbin Burnes as your ace to Zach Eflin, that's more than just a substantial drop. That's a huge difference in your team and the outlook of that team. So the question for me, the biggest question really, outside the Blue Jays coin flip of a season, is Baltimore's pitching. Is it going to be right? Is it going to be, Morton still having it and Creamer having a good season, and is Sugano going to be a guy, or is Rodriguez going to get healthy, and Bradish and Rogers and Bautista? Hey, to be fair, they didn't have Felix Bautista last year. They do this year. That's a better state for them. They were 23rd in relief ERA. They're going to be at least top 15, if not more, because they have Felix Bautista. If he's healthy and he's right, we saw what that 2023 season was. He could click into that once again. So, I mean, you've got an interesting division once again. I think no matter who comes last in this division is going to be by 5 games, finish 75 and 87, something like that. So it'll be very interesting to see how this AL East plays out. The games against each other are always the games kind of that what matter, at the end of the season. A reason the Blue Jays finished last year is because of how bad they were against the Yankees and against Baltimore and against the Rays even, struggled in some series. So if the Blue Jays can handle their division, they might be fine, because at the end of the day, when these 5 teams go out and play teams in the AL Central and the AL West, most of them find a way to win. The AL East division's always got a high win percentage. They're a top division. Maybe not the top division anymore because of how good that NL West is and potentially NL East, but still a top 3 division in baseball. All these teams realistically have what it takes to make the postseason. I think there is very few teams that I think, opening day, they're already not going to make the postseason. But these 5, you can tell me any one of them can make the playoffs come September, and I would believe you, because and any one of them can fall off. Baltimore's starting pitching, big cause for concern. Garrett Cole not healthy, the Yankees can easily flop. Boston, with Walker Buehler, Giolito taking a chance on some of those starting pitchers, that can go bad. The Devers at third baseman and Bregman at second, the defense might be atrocious. We've seen Boston's defense struggle in recent years, so that's cause for concern. The Blue Jays, we know what their floor is like. This could be a very bad season if they trade Vlad, if they trade Bo, if they're really bad at the All-Star break. And then Tampa Bay, I mean, on paper, will always have the worst team, I feel like, in this division. At least usually we'll have the worst team. But then somehow these guys figure it out. If on paper, they're still, I think, the worst team. So, we'll have to see how that goes. They were 29th in runs. So that offense is lackluster. And, of course, what does playing at not your home stadium mean? Is it going to be more offense or is it going to be less offense? It's all these big questions that we don't really have the answers to because we've never seen it. The last time we saw a major league team playing a AAA ballpark was the Blue Jays during the COVID seasons when they couldn't fly to Canada. So we saw that, and we saw their offense take an uptick. Playing in a AAA stadium did benefit Jays offense those years. We saw how good they were in 2020 and 2021 with, top-tier offenses. So maybe it benefits the Rays. Maybe we see Brandon Lau have a career year and have 40-plus home runs, or Yanni Diaz, or Danny Jansen, or Josh Lowe, etc. AL East, going to be a good division, going to be a nice dogfight. The question is, who is going to take it all? And you will get that answer from me when I do my predictions episode come a few weeks' time. So, with that being said, let's end this episode up with the over and unders, which will give you kind of, perspective of where my mind is at right now. Of course, this might change, a couple weeks when I do those prediction episodes because more injuries and who knows what else might get thrown into the mix there. So that being said, the New York Yankees are first on the docket. Their over-under is 88.5, and although it's very likely Garrett Cole will need Tommy John, it's not 100% confirmed yet, and even if he does, I still like this team. I think bringing in Bellinger and Goldschmidt and Fried and Williams, yes, they lost Soto. I still think they're good. I don't know how good Judge will be, but I will take the over on the Yankees at 88.5. I think they've got it. Baltimore's over and under at 86.5. They're going to be worse in my mind. Losing Burnes causes your team to be worse. How sustainable is that rotation? I don't have much faith in it. The offense can be great, but as we saw in the postseason last year, it can also be goose eggs. It's going to be extremely close to Baltimore line eyes, but I'm going to take the under on Baltimore. I think it might be a little bit of a tough season for them. I think they might finish 84, 85, close for a wild card. I don't know, but at 86.5, like that's 5 games worse with Baltimore. Corbin Burnes, 32 starts in the season. Yeah, I think the under is a likely scenario there for Baltimore. For the Red Sox, they have the same over and under at 86.5. You're taking a gamble on some starters. You're taking a gamble on some defense. But with Bregman playing in Boston, he's got great numbers there. Devers is always going to be a star. What can you get out of Trevor Story finally? I think Boston might be fighting the Yankees for the division. I will take the over on Baltimore at 86.5. On Boston at 86.5. For the Rays, they sit at 81.5. So will they finish 500 or lower, or will they finish above 500? At 80 and 82 last year, I don't think this team got better on paper, but they are bringing back guys who were hurt, guys who weren't pitching because of Tommy Johns and because of elbow injuries. Shane McClanahan being back will get them some wins. Shane Baz, Drew Rasmussen. So there's some upside here with Tampa, but I think other teams got better. They're going to have to win games. I don't know if Tampa can do that. I'm going to take the under on Tampa at 81.5. And that brings us to the last one, the Toronto Blue Jays, who sit at 78.5, the lowest over-under in this division. And like I said, for me, it's a coin flip because if their season gets hot early, they're going to add to the deadline. They're going to try to make a push if they're fighting for a division, if they're fighting for a wild card, because this team has the talent. But if they start the season cold, if they struggle and come to the deadline, it's not looking good, you'll see Vladdy get traded, you'll see Bo get traded, and that August and that September are going to be really unfortunate. I'm going to play the positive role. I'm going to think that Hoffman will help out that bullpen. And I think Scherzer, who's looked very good in the spring so far, in spring training, I think he will have a strong year. I think bringing in Santander will boost that offense. I like what the Jays did. It's now, can those guys who struggled last year turn it around this year? At 78.5, for me, that's low. I'm going to take the over on the Blue Jays. So in summary, Blue Jays, Boston, and New York, we're going over. Baltimore and Tampa, we are taking the under. How will that look? I have no idea, but I appreciate you all for sticking around for this 200th episode. Thank you, everybody, so much. We are now over the hump in our DOPs. This was the fourth one. I think I said third at the beginning of this episode. This is the fourth one we've done. We've got one more on Friday, and then the last one next Monday this week on the 17th will be the last one. And before you know it, we'll be in Tokyo for Dodgers versus Cubs, and then prediction episodes and the start of the season. So we are really here right now. What a great time to be. So yeah, and I will give you the sneak peek that the AL Central will be done on Friday, and the NL West will wrap us up on next week on the Monday. So if you're looking for one of those specifically, you know which day to expect it. I appreciate you all. Thank you, everybody, so much for 200 episodes, and I will see you next time.